You're watching Two Geeks Talking. Have a good time.
Hey all, Kurt Sasso here from Windsor ComiCon 2017. We're joined today by Angus MacInnes. Of course, you know him from from Star Wars and everything else because he's an amazing actor. How are you doing today?
Very well, thank you.
You know, you're a Windsor actor. You're originally from Windsor. You've had an amazing career overall. What brings you back to the city?
Well, I originally was coming back for a wedding. My niece is getting married in a week from now, and then somebody told me about the Comic-Con, and I got myself invited, and so here I am. So it's a nice thing to do a twofer, because I haven't done an event before in Canada. So I thought, well, if I'm going to do an event in Canada, I'm going to do it in my hometown. Thank you very much.
Well, why not, for sure. In your long career as an actor, though, are there any iconic movies that kind of set you on your path to acting?
Before I started acting? Yes. Oddly enough, one movie that really knocked me out was when I was a kid was a movie called Vikings, and with Kirk Douglas. And it turned out that I wound up doing the television series called Vikings, and I got to do all of the stuff that I wanted. That used to drive me crazy. I mean, sailing in a Viking ship up the Boyne in Ireland at 6 o'clock in the morning with the mist on the water was like, wow, what's this about? And it's just great. You know, you got an axe in your belt, you got a sword here, and you got these lunatics all around you. It was just fabulous. So, I mean, that sort of thing, you know, really trips you on and gives you the energy to say, well, if I want to do, you know, it's like cosplaying in a way. You know, you get into the costume and you start getting into the character and you start playing. I don't know if you do any cosplaying, but the people that do, I watch them and I see how fabulously they get involved in it. And that's fantastic. And so anything that trips you over and gets your imagination going is a really good thing, because it's like setting fire to gasoline sometimes, you know. And for me, that's what it was like.
Everyone has that one person that kind of inspired them on their path to where they are today. Who was that for you? I had
a lot of mentors here, and I had mentors in other countries. I've had mentors that worked with me and taught me things. One of the big influences in Windsor was a man by the name of Dan Kelly, who was the head of the drama school at University of Windsor when I went there, and unfortunately Dan has passed on. But another really important influence in my work has been Max von Sydow, the Swedish actor. I've done 3 or 4 movies with Max, and he's just a wonderful, wonderful man. And I've had, every time I met him, his whole attitude and his friendliness and his approachability is just, he's one of my great heroes. But I had the pleasure of working with him several times, and so in the end, I used to watch him work, sit off the set when he was working, and I would watch his work and figure out how he was doing it, and I learned an enormous amount from him. Yeah.
It's great to have mentors like that, especially.
Really, really important. I mean, you can't copy other people. You just have to be with them, you know, and watch what they're doing and clock how they're doing. You're not copying what they're doing, but you're learning from them and learning the techniques of film work, which is, for me, you know, the important thing. Mm-hmm.
In your career, you're professionally successful. You've done so much amazing work, iconic work in that regard. Do you consider yourself personally successful?
I wish I was financially successful. I wish I got paid a tenth of what some of the guys I worked with. I'd be fine. But yeah, I mean, I'm very, very satisfied with the work that I've done, and I'm most satisfied with the directors that I've worked with. I've worked with some of the best directors in the industry, and working and learning with people like Norman Jewison or Stanley Kubrick or Peter Weir or all the wonderful directors I've worked with is just, it's like lightning. You know, you work with these guys and you sit and watch how they work. I worked with Louis Malle, the famous French director on Atlantic City, and just watching this guy working and being pulled into the work with him because he involved everybody, and he was a fantastic guy. And other great, Peter Weir was like that too, really involved you in the decision making, you know, how do we do this, why do we do this, what's going on? And those things are the things that really drive me as an actor, because it's the creative part of it. It isn't just being in a flashy movie. I mean, That's not the important thing. The important thing is what actually happens on the set and what happens as you're discussing it. So you'd be sitting in the bar with the director and a couple of other guys and be knocking ideas around. And those things get translated onto the screen and you go, yeah, I get a part of that. That's cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah, yeah.
How do you deal with your failures?
I don't think that there is any such thing. I mean, it hits and misses. I have no control over the work that I do in a large extent, except what I personally bring to it. But if somebody's directing the movie, I have no control over what that outcome is going to be. And sometimes people gamble and they play a risk and it doesn't work. And you at least have to say to them, well, you're brave enough to try it, or stupid enough to try it, or whatever. But the point is that the film industry is not a perfect industry. Every time you go out there to make a movie, you're trying to get the ingredients right. It's like baking a cake from scratch. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't work. And when they don't work, well, it's not a failure. It's just a miss. Everybody tried hard. But sometimes the movies are more successful 5 years after they were released. A film like Strange Brew, for instance, which I did, was at nothing in the movie houses. But it took off as a cult movie, and now it's, I get people saying to me from all over the world, they go, Strange Brew, that's so cool. I go like, what do you know about Strange Brew? It's like that movie. But that's a really good part of it. When those little sleepers pop out of nowhere, and you go, well, yeah. Yeah.
The younger generation are looking to your work as an actor, and they're becoming inspired to become actors themselves. And that's wonderful to see. How can they inspire the generation that follows them?
Well, we're in the middle of a transition right now, and this is an important point in the sense that when I started out, the movie industry was a completely different beast. You were 35 millimeter cameras, 75 millimeter cameras is half the size of a car. Now people are walking around with cameras that are this big, and they're shooting high quality, high def, video with that you can translate into 35 millimeter if you want to. Actors are being supplanted by CGI, and it's a very difficult game. I don't know if I would want to be part of it right now, but it's still very exciting for any actor, and any actor will inspire another actor. If you see another actor, one actor watches another actor's work, they either look at him and go, oh, that's such trash, or they'll go, that's so good, that's so interesting, and that approach is so interesting, and you start analyzing it. It's very difficult for me to watch a movie and enjoy it because, well, I know too much about the technology that goes into it. I know too much about how you build characters, how scenes are built, and so I'm looking at some of the details, and I find myself going like, I wonder why he did that camera move, and I wonder why, instead of just sitting back and enjoying the movie. But every once in a while you do go to a film and you go, yeah, that's really a good picture, as a holistic thing, yeah?
Well, what would be one of those films for you then?
Gravity, because I had never really seen good 3D, and I remember sitting in the middle of Gravity, and there was some work going on. She was pulling bits and pieces off this wreckage, and this big boat came out of the screen, and it started flipping towards us. And I was sitting there watching it, and I thought, this is really interesting. I wonder how far this is going to go. And it got right to the seat in front of me, and then was gone. I thought, that's interesting. It's like, because it adds such a dynamic to the viewer, and it involves them in such a different way. But yeah, Gravity was good for those reasons. I sometimes watch movies and I'm like, I'm not too sure. Even when they're like Dunkirk, everybody liked Dunkirk. Oh my God! And I went to see it and I was like, I'm not too, I mean, it was a phenomenal movie. There's loads of stuff in it. You go, wow, that's just great. But and I walked out. I went, I'm not just sure about this movie. I don't know. I didn't see thousands and thousands of boats. I didn't see this. I didn't see that. But that's my problem as an actor. And my problem as a film actor, especially. So, yeah. I mean, it's just, who knows? You win some, you lose some.
Exactly. And where can we find all of your work? And thank you so much for doing this, by the way. But where can we find your website or anything along that?
Well, I have them on Facebook, so you can just sort of find me there, I guess. I sort of babble on once in a while on Facebook, but the rest of the time it's just getting through life.